We are watching a Georgia courtroom where former President Trump's attorneys have been asking the judge to throw out the election interference charges against him in that state. I want to bring in ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci and ABC News contributor, former Georgia prosecutor Chris Timmons for more. John, Trump's attorneys here say the charges should be dismissed because then President Trump was engaged in what they're calling political speech. Yeah. And they say that, that's protected by the First Amendment. And so this all should be protected by the First Amendment. What do you make of the way they're laying out these arguments so far?
Well, listen, I think what their job right now is to say Donald Trump in his statements was doing it as a candidate for office and as, at the time, President of the United States, and was doing it because it was his First Amendment right to express his opinion. What they are trying to do is take the heat out of the language, right? Because it was so much of Donald Trump's words and rhetoric, both publicly stated, especially when he spoke on the morning of January 6th on the National Ellipse right outside the White House, and also the phone calls he made. It's Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, to other elected officials, trying to pressure them to violate their oath of office. And what the Trump team is saying is that, look, this is political speech. He is allowed to make a statement and give an opinion about an election, especially one he was in. What the prosecutors have argued here is that he tried to get government officials to violate their oath of office and tried to get individuals to overthrow the government. And in the case of Georgia, it's those examples of getting people to go to where votes were being counted, that they followed Donald Trump's words and rhetoric, both what he was saying, and let's not forget, too, this was a time in life, yet once upon a time, that Donald Trump was on Twitter, right? And how many times did his supporters say, I believe what he's writing on Twitter? It's a directive to us, right? We're not backing down. I mean, I remember the images on the morning of January 6th of, people reading his tweets and saying, no, he doesn't really want us to back down. He wants us to keep going because that's what he wrote the night before. It's really interesting how Donald Trump's supporters really take his language and rhetoric to heart. And what the Trump team is saying here is that it was not the intention to do anything illegal. And that is exactly what we're getting in this courtroom today.
Chris, former President Trump also often communicates in ways that can be left to interpretation. There's always a little room there, or usually anyway. One of the thits, for example, that they're debating in court is what his intention was when he told the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, to find the votes, right? You have the prosecution here saying that he was literally telling him to violate his oath of office and make up these votes fraudulently. And you have Trump's team saying, no, he just meant he thought that there were votes out there that still could be found lawfully, and that's all he was saying as a form of political speech. How difficult does that make this case when you have to try to take the words and then figure out the intent or try to prove the intent behind them?
Sure. So, Diane, there's two parts to this matter. The first is what's going on today, and that's the judge looking at the indictment and trying to decide if there is protected political speech here. And a lot of that comes down to intent. But I think that's a lot of the state's argument, Diane, is that, look, it's not you, the court, that's the one that's supposed to be making the determination on intent. That's why we have jurors. I mean, we're going to have jurors at the end of the day have got to make a decision on what that intent is. And to your point with regard to proof, I mean, the state's got a little bit of an uphill battle here in that they've got to prove that intent beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard that we all know here. And so they've got to prove that to a jury. So, yeah, I mean, proving intent is always difficult. There are a number of Georgia jury charges that talk about intent. You can infer it from somebody's action. You can infer it from other speech. And here, I think what they're predominantly relying upon is the idea that, Donald Trump was told by a number of different people that he had lost the election, that they needed to wrap it up, that they needed to, settle down. They needed to get out of office and make room for Joe Biden. But what happened in this particular case was that Trump didn't do that. Trump indicated that he was going to hang on to that office, and that's really what this Georgia case is about.
John, what are you hearing from Trump's inner circle about this case and how it's going so far?
I mean, listen, they want this case to go away as quickly as possible. That's clearly not happening, so this is another delay tactic. What I am hearing is that they are turning their attention to the next trial, which Chris talked about earlier. Manhattan gets started in just a couple weeks, Diane.
All right, John Santucci, Chris Timmons, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.